Life challenges are hard enough for most of us on a daily basis, but what if the odds were stacked against you with a physical or mental disability, or if you suddenly became disabled? How would you adapt? Where would you turn for help? And how does disability fit within the overall work that United Way does in our community? We'll discuss that and more today. Hello and welcome to Living United, a show about how our community can be the change for those most in need. I'm Ann McNeil, United Way volunteer and manager of corporate citizenship and corporate affairs for IBM. Today I'm joined by executives from two United Way agencies that serve those with disabilities. My studio guests are Julia Sain, Executive Director of Disability Rights and Resources, and Christopher White, Vice President of Program Operations and Business Development for Lifespan. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Before we get deep into the conversation, I want to start with the big picture. Julia, if you would please tell me a little bit more about your respective agencies, and Christopher after Julia. And so we'll get started. So Julia, if you will take it away.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are Disability Rights and Resources, fighting for justice, advancing independence. Our goal is to have an inclusive community. So we work with people with disabilities directly to assist them in living as independently as they would choose to live, but we also work in the community, businesses, municipalities, employers, so they know what their responsibilities are. So we're rights and responsibilities specific to any program, service, or activity that anybody in the community could participate in.
Excellent. Christopher, what about your agency?
We are celebrating our 40th anniversary this
Congratulations.
year. Yes.
How exciting.
Our founder, Lee Derby, started in the basement of a church, St. Mark's Lutheran, with 5 kids that were excluded from school. And I will say 40 years later, we're supporting 1,200 children and adults across the state of North Carolina, hopefully empowering them to live, work, and play in their communities.
Excellent. Wow, 40 years old. I didn't realize you guys were
40 strong.
Well, I guess I'm feeling my age then. For our viewing audience, when we talk about diversity and disability in the community, Christopher, if you can talk a little bit more about what that means, because I think for all of us, we may put one thing in our head, but it's much more, I'm sure, than what most people think it is.
I'll kind of take a piece of just starting out with developmental disabilities, intellectual developmental disabilities. It is a disability which manifests itself during childhood, which can be a cognitive or it can have physical pieces to that. As I give as an example, I once told someone if a person with autism, for us, if we were to wake up every day in a brand new airport, just brand spanking new.
Yeah.
You have all these different languages passing you by, people talking, and all you're trying to do is find your luggage. That's all you're concerned about. So you're looking through all these signs trying to get to that area.
Right.
That's kind of the way a person with autism is operating. They have a lot of people saying a lot of things, but they're looking for that one piece to get them to their next step. Can you imagine living like that every day you wake up?
No,
in a
I
brand
can't.
new airport.
Yeah.
Even though Charlotte's airport is great, but you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. And Julia?
Well, I'm going to steal that story, if I may, because that's an excellent analogy. We work with all disability groups.
Right.
And so last year, our youngest client, consumer, was 4, and our oldest was 85. And we work with all disability groups. So when we talk about categories of disabilities,
if you could just give me some of that.
physical,
Right.
which we think about with mobility.
Sure.
That's what we call that. Mental health, that's the depression, paranoia, anxiety. And then Christopher's world, the intellectual developmental disabilities, he explained that very well. Sensory, which is the hearing loss, vision loss.
Right.
And we even use that for the inability to speak. And then there's the systemic. You have lupus, you have fibromyalgia, something like that, chronic fatigue that completely takes over the system.
Multiple sclerosis,
And
those.
exactly,
yeah, right.
good example. Interestingly enough, historically our agency served primarily people with physical disabilities. That's how we started. But last year, 14% of the people we served had more than one category.
Oh.
So we are serving people that use wheelchairs and now are having paranoia, or they're deaf, but now they're having some early onset Alzheimer's. I mean, there's any number of combinations. And I think the barriers, if I could say, depends on, in the community, depends on the disability. It could be the built environment. We build steps and tell a person that they're disabled because they can't climb the steps. Instead of building a ramp they could get in, would be finished. But there's also then denial of participation. There's policies that say you can't even try to do what everybody else is doing. And people don't even know what the rights and responsibilities are. The businesses don't know their responsibilities. The people with disabilities don't know their rights. And so they're at some kind of a clash. And we try to bring it together so that all those disabilities can come out. So we work with all disability groups for that purpose. And then the direct services, like Christopher provides for his population, is much deeper and much more intense. So that's why we really need to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, before the show started, I mentioned that I was in a position for a period of time where I couldn't get around very well. I had an injury. And you had mentioned, after I explained the injury and what had happened to me, you said, we could have helped you with that. Right. So I guess for our viewing audience, if someone has a temporary disability where they're in a wheelchair for a period of time, or whatever the case may be, you also offer support to those folks?
Well, yes, because a lot of it is just information.
Right.
We can tell you how you get to and around and through any number of situations. Now, just because you have a temporary disability doesn't make it less of a limitation to you at that time.
Right, exactly.
And so it could be that suddenly your mom is in town. I don't know your mom, but I know my mom.
Right.
And my mom uses a wheelchair. So my mom comes to town, and what she has the access to is different from what I have access to. The way she gets in a building may be a different route than the way I get in the building. That doesn't mean we can't both go in the building. And so if I've never been in it that way, I don't know how. Our agency can give you so much information about that, and it doesn't have to be a long-term relationship. It's called information and assistance. We give you information and we assist you in getting what services you need. And that may not be somebody that needs to have a case open. It may just be a one-time, let me tell you about that.
Well, and my case was a good example. I had to fly every week, right? So I had to go to the airport and get from my car into the airport through security to my gate. And it was a challenge the first time, and it would have been wonderful to have been able to call you.
And let me just say that what you just described to me in a very simple sentence, 3 different laws cover what you just said. And the rights and responsibilities depend upon which law, because when you go here, you're in your city, when you go here, your airport, and when you're here, your private business.
Right.
One of the reasons that we're helpful is because we know all of that.
Right.
And who is supposed to do what. The cab companies have one responsibility, the airport folks have another responsibility, and then the airlines have a separate responsibility.
Right.
And so bringing it all together and figuring out the pieces is one of the things we spend a lot of time on.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for that information. Christopher, there are stereotypes. We talk about stereotypes.
Yes.
and how people, you have to fight them every day. I know you both do in your jobs. And, is part of it the fact that people don't take the time to understand?
Yes, education is the key majority of the time. I think a lot of it starts even with our families. As our folks are getting older and they're moving up through life and they get out of school and those type processes, I know usually what you'll hear folks say is, this is all this person can do. They still see them as a child, but they have dreams, they have aspirations, no different than anyone else. Our job is to educate and kind of show them that, no different than the next person. I want a job, I want to be active in my community, and that comes from educating not families first, but then work out to the community itself, and empowering that individual to know all the wonderful things that they can do.
What are some of the things that you all do from the standpoint of educating, the community?
Yeah, one of the biggest parts is we used to have like a community partners day. We would invite folks in and kind of just do a 101 of letting them know what it is to live with a developmental disability and letting them know how we can support. let them see it through others' eyes.
Right.
Because I think we walk through with blinders a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, a whole lot of the time. So when you are in situations like you were speaking of, it makes you look at things differently.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was in Baltimore, I believe. I was at a conference, and I actually had an injury myself.
Right.
So finding parking.
Right.
Once I got to the hotel, making sure the hotel was shower accessible for me and that wheelchair piece. Things I never thought of. Holding the door as I'm going through doors, and who's respectful enough to help me get through those
Right.
doors. I never thought of those things before,
Right.
but now I'm in that situation.
Right.
So what about me? You know,
Right.
but it's the same things walking. Anything you want for yourself is the same thing you should want for that individual. That's the way I always look at it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's an excellent point.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're right. We do walk around with blinders on.
We do.
And not always intentional. You
No.
know, but it's good. I appreciate the fact that your agency does that. I think I actually have, back when I worked for United Way,
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to go on one of those, you know, tours and experience it,
Yes.
and it is an eye opener. And I would encourage our viewing audience, you know, you can certainly call Lifespan if this is something
Yes.
that interests you. I think, Julia, when you were talking about your mother coming to town, again, we may not deal with disability in our direct family every day, but we may have with our neighbors or our friends, and having a better understanding, I think, is very important for all of us.
Yes.
You know, on the subject of stereotypes, we're going to watch a video now about Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center. Based on their name, you might assume most of their work is health related, but actually education is a large part of their focus also. Let's watch the video now.
At Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center, we believe that communication is the key to connecting with the world. It's our mission to provide a full range of speech, language, and hearing services to everyone in need, regardless of their ability to pay. We truly believe that communication is the key aspect of someone's quality of life. Each year, we provide services to about 600 individuals with a hearing disability. Hearing loss is actually one of the most prevalent chronic conditions affecting older adults, but hearing loss does not just affect older adults. Many children have hearing loss, and it's of critical importance to provide a child with a hearing aid within the first year of life. This allows them access to the language that they need to develop and to succeed. Our speech language department serves about 2,500 people per year, primarily children. Our services are broken down into 3 components: prevention, identification, and intervention. On the prevention side, we do a lot of training. We train parents, caregivers, other healthcare providers. We partner with fellow United Way agencies like the Nurse Family Partnership, as well as the Learning Collaborative. We want to make sure that every person who touches a child's life understands the importance of early language and language stimulation to the child's development and their success. Early identification of delays is critical to a child's success. The earlier we can identify their delay, the earlier we can take action. We can take a simple delay and treat it early, and that child has a great chance of success. However, if it's not treated, a developmental delay can actually turn into a lifelong disability that affects their learning and their language and their long-term academic success. After identification, then comes intervention. Speech and hearing disabilities are often referred to as the invisible disability because you can't see a communication disorder. But this actually isn't true for children who need to use augmentative communication devices, and this is one aspect of intervention we provide here. This allows a child who's otherwise nonverbal to communicate. The strongest desire of any of our parents is to communicate and connect with their child, and an alternative device like this will make that possible for them. We are here in the center providing services to a wide range of clients with disabilities. We also are out in the community a great bit. Some of our therapists are out providing free screenings at child care sites throughout Mecklenburg County. We also serve about 1,000 children through our Language and Literacy Impact Program. This provides identification and intervention services to about 1,000 preschoolers per year that have known risk factors for school failure. The intervention focuses on the key language and literacy skills that we know they're going to need before they enter kindergarten. The community can help in a number of different ways. Honestly, one of the most important is for parents and caregivers to read and interact with their child starting at birth. That way they don't need these services at all. That would make us very happy. Another way is for the community to be a patron of Charlotte Speech and Hearing Center. I think it's important for them to know that we serve people from all different levels of incomes and all different neighborhoods. When someone comes here and they pay full fee for hearing aid or speech therapy services, those funds go right back into our community programs and help those in need. While we believe that what we do is absolutely critical and one of the most important things ever, we can't do it alone. For every individual in our community to be able to break down their barriers and reach their highest potential, we need something like United Way. United Way mobilizes all the amazing resources we have in Charlotte to help people across a broad spectrum of problems, whether it's housing, food, health, or education.
We're back in the studio. Fascinating video. Julia, before I want to talk a little bit more about the video, but I didn't give you a chance to talk a little bit about how your organization deals with stereotypes.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that because, in my opinion, it's a matter of a person who doesn't have that disability and can't imagine having that disability. So folks say, you know, if I ever found myself in a wheelchair, I couldn't open my own door, so obviously you can't either as a person in a wheelchair. So I'm not sure it's as much stereotypes, it's as much I can't imagine me doing it, therefore I can't imagine you doing it. Because people with disabilities, there's some stereotypes that I just jotted down, that people with disabilities are impoverished, and therefore they need special help. People with disabilities are people, and sometimes they're poor, and sometimes they're not. But the one that I get the most is that people with disabilities are sick, or it's a health issue. You know, people with disabilities can get sick, but disability is not an illness. That they can't work, or they don't want to work, or they can't express what they want. They go to a restaurant and you're with a person in a wheelchair, and the waitress asks me what he wants to eat. You know, everybody gets, just like Christopher said, everybody has their own desires of what to eat and how to do that, and that people can't live independently because they're somehow hurt, or they might get hurt, and we call that dignity of risk.
Interesting. Dignity of risk. Maybe we'll talk a little more about that in a moment. You know, in the video, we heard Shannon Tucker talk about collaborating with other United Way agencies. Christopher, I know Lifespan does a lot of collaboration.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Give us some examples.
Well, across this state, we collaborate with a lot of people, community colleges, United Way.
Of course.
Yes. Lowe's, Deloitte, Duke Energy, the things that they bring to the table is we have a program that we operate that's called a Creative Campus. Take the name Creative, which means we'll have just one person come in and maybe they want to do tap classes for that quarter. Maybe we have somebody that wants to come in yoga, creative, whatever we can add, however we can expose,
anything,
painting.
yeah.
We're giving folks choices and opportunities through life. Same, no different than ourselves, other than just a couple of things that we may have put in front of them in the past. In the past, we used to operate, well, in some areas it's still existing, but what we call shelter workshops. They would do contract work, maybe 5 bolts in a bag, and then they would receive a sub-minimum wage. Well, beyond that, now we're saying, what would you like to do? Mm-hmm. What do you enjoy? What brings the best out of you? Those are the things we want to focus on. Our community partners allow us to do this.
Excellent. Who are some of the, you mentioned some businesses, and tell us how you partner with businesses.
Wow. You know, it's strange how some things come to pass. I've had people meet at church and say, oh, I heard about what you're doing. I work at so-and-so. I'm at Altria. We would love to link up, maybe hear more about your agency going through our Community Partners Day, and next thing you know, they're in there volunteering. Maybe just sprucing up our grounds with the individuals side by side planting flowers.
Oh, that's
you know how meaningful that is for a person during that day? I mean, these are exciting things that people are giving of their time. But on the reverse end, we also give back to the community, whether we're volunteering at Loaves and Fishes or crisis assistance. So we also want to give back at the same time. So it's a give and take. Exactly.
Yeah. So, so obviously you mentioned the beautification. What other ways do volunteers work at your agency?
Well, we also operate an art studio. I don't know. It's off of North Davison. Lord, I hope I'm saying it right. And this is a studio which was...
Well, I'm sure they can go to your website, right, to find out more information on that. If you're missing the location, we can figure that out.
And we've had several volunteers come through there to give of their time to our artists. How we discovered this was actually we had some folks that were in our program and put a canvas in front of them. We've had artwork sell as far as Japan.
Oh my goodness!
$400 or $500 a piece, and 50%. We have contracts, so 50% goes to that artist, not individual.
Do you have a place where people can go and look at the artwork and buy it?
Yes. And like I said, if you go on our website, we also have that on our Facebook page.
Nice.
With Lifespan. So this is awesome stuff.
So that also, a percentage of it, I'm sure, goes to the art. I mean, do you have some sort of
Yes, it's a
split?
contract. Yes. What it is we pay for all materials, canvas, whether it be pottery. So 50% goes to the artist, 50% to Lifespan.
Nice.
But it's not called Lifespan. It's actually called Mosaic Studios. Not wanting it to be attached because it's a studio. You can have classes too if you would like.
Really?
So sign up, please.
Nice.
Very interesting. And
Yes.
side by side with
Side
your,
by side, side
I
by
love
side.
that. I love that.
We want them to
Again,
see
that
the
gets
artist.
to the whole education
Yes,
piece, doesn't it?
yes. This is how you educate the community and have them clearly see that there's not a division.
No.
I mean,
yeah,
there's
exactly.
abilities, not disabilities.
Right.
And our job is to eliminate those abilities.
And what age groups? Do you have classes for varying ages?
Yes,
Okay.
right now we're pretty much covered in our adult portions,
Sure,
but
yeah.
we were even talking about doing like a summer camp for, maybe 3 weeks for kids.
So I guess you would need some funding to do that, wouldn't you?
Of course we would.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those out there who are listening and find that interesting, that might be a great opportunity.
Wonderful opportunity.
Yeah,
Wonderful
I love
opportunity.
that. I love that. That's wonderful. And
Thank
I especially like the fact of working side by side. It's not like you're doing, oh, we have another class for folks without disabilities, and then we're
Correct.
going to put. I
Yeah.
think that is just amazing.
I think a lot of the pieces that we end up thinking sometimes is, I call them entry-level jobs. The first job I ever had was Food Line, and people heard me say I was the best bagger in North Carolina. I don't have that job today, but you must start somewhere.
Absolutely.
We don't want to be just the folks that are cleaning your tables, your
Right.
restrooms. We can work in banks.
Right.
So we need to eliminate those thought patterns. We can be an artist in a studio.
Yeah.
So get rid of that.
I love it. I love it. Julia, I know you guys collaborate as well. Can you give us give me a couple of examples?
Well, I'm very impressed with this. I'm taking notes over here. Every agency, every business, every governmental office, every employer has people with disabilities that come to them. And so what we do in collaboration is we work with everybody to make sure that we all know the same information and we know how to address the issues. And so we collaborate with agencies in some ways, like we share participants. For example, I can remember the ARC had a participant that has Down syndrome, an adult,
Right.
and was going to fly to somewhere to meet another family member, and the airport folks did not necessarily want to have them fly alone. The airline specifically did not want to let them fly alone. And so while the ARC had done all of the prep work,
Right.
when they met that barrier, then they contacted us and we were able to get that barrier removed.
Excellent.
And so we worked together with that. Also with some non-typical relationships that you would expect. For example, we have a great relationship with the Boy Scouts because they have young men and women in one of their programs with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so we give the leaders information about what they can do to assist that scout in being successful or not, but the opportunity to participate. And so now Mecklenburg County has some Eagle Scouts, and a couple of them have autism, and it's not because they were given, but because they earned it. And as Christopher said, we
And
all
that scout
want,
leader also took the time
oh, absolutely.
to make sure that person was successful.
So we tell people, we give people ideas and let them run with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like Christopher said, we all want to go to the same place. We just get there differently.
Right, right. This show is really having an emotional impact on me. I mean, these stories are incredible. But it all takes money, is the bottom line. All of this takes funding. And, there's been government cuts in this
Yes.
area. Talk a little bit about the struggles you face, and then maybe some of the areas. I would say the Mosaic program is one where you guys are looking at alternatives,
Correct.
funding resources. But talk a little bit about the struggles and where the needs are.
There was a person we've been supporting for many years, and it never fails. Whenever we're doing a tour, maybe a new prospective volunteer, he'll stop them and he'll say, "I'm a person, not a budget number." Nobody scripted him to say that. As you wonder, I don't know where he's.
Where did he get that?
Just along. I was actually doing a tour yesterday, and I wandered off to go
Yeah.
shoot basketball with someone, and sure as well they say, he said those famous lines, but it's true.
Yeah.
There's a person behind this, and I think the biggest thing that we have found is there's no doubt that they're trying to get more people into the system, but there's no extra dollars. So to create this, what we're seeing as a trend is hours are being cut. Services are being eliminated.
Right.
So you can get more people in the system off the same amount of dollars. We've seen that decrease over the last 6-7 years. They want the same quality, but with less dollars. And that has been very difficult, and it causes us to be creative. We need more volunteers. We need more outside funding, more donors
Right.
to continue this mission. And the fact that I believe when you're making a decision of a budget number, but you can't see the person, is a huge difference.
Yeah.
There's a life that's being affected, and I understand that everyone wants money, whether that be transportation or housing. But at the end of the day, I believe changing a person's life to become a viable citizen in their own community, whether that's through employment or giving back through volunteerism, that's important.
It absolutely
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Julia, we've got just about a minute left, and we're going to have to wrap up. But I'm going to change my last question, because we said you have a lot of direct services, but talk about your advocacy. But we've talked a lot about the advocacy. So if you can tell a little more about, wrap it up with telling us more about some of your direct services.
Well, we talk with people with disabilities, and when they come into the agency, we don't have a menu.
Right.
So we say, what is it that's preventing you from being as independent as you'd like to be? And we start there. You were talking about Lee. I remember Lee Derby. And I've been at my agency almost 30 years. It'll be 30 years 1st of October. And I haven't had 2 days the same. Because when somebody comes into my office, everybody that comes into my office is a person that has a dream or a goal or a desire.
Or a struggle. Or
And we say, what is preventing that from happening?
Right.
How can we work together to fix that? And it may be that we're helping the person look at things they never thought about before, but then once they hit that, as I was talking about with the person from the art, when they hit a barrier, we're there to help eliminate that barrier so they can keep going.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all you do to serve those in need in our community. To our viewing audience, if you want to get involved in serving your local neighbors in need, please visit the website shown on your screen. And if you're a member of our viewing audience who needs help, please dial 211. 24 hours a day, dialing 211 will connect you with a referral specialist who can help you find services such as food, housing, and employment, and more. I'm Ann McNeil. Thank you for living united.